Amina was born in a small, remote village nestled between rolling hills and winding rivers, a place where traditions ran deep, and every family followed the ways passed down from their ancestors. From the day she opened her eyes, Amina's life was shaped by the customs of her tribe. They were proud people, careful to honor their heritage. But life in the village was not always easy. Resources were scarce, opportunities limited, and even the smallest misstep could carry consequences. Yet, despite these challenges, Amina's family loved her deeply. When she was very young, Amina had an accident that left her partially paralyzed. She could walk short distances with help, but often relied on a small cane to move around. In a village where physical strength was highly valued, her disability made her life more complicated. Still, Amina never allowed herself to feel weak. She learned to adapt. She found clever ways to complete tasks others found simple, proving to herself and her family that her mind and spirit were stronger than her body. Her parents were her greatest support. Her mother, a gentle woman with a soft voice, always reminded her, "Your heart is stronger than your legs, my child." Her father, a practical man who worked tirelessly in the fields, often said, "Amina, what you cannot do with your body, you can do with your mind." These words became her mantra. Every day, as she looked out at the hills, Amina promised herself that her life would not be defined by her disability. Despite her challenges, Amina had a curiosity that could not be contained. She loved to sit by the river that ran through the village, watching the water sparkle in the sunlight, imagining a world beyond the hills and fields she knew so well. She had a small notebook, worn and filled with sketches and notes, where she drew pictures of distant lands, mountains, and cities she had only heard of in stories. The notebook was her escape, her private world where she could dream freely. Amina also had close friends who never treated her as fragile or incapable. They included her in games, listened to her opinions, and laughed with her as though her paralysis was irrelevant. These friendships gave her confidence and reminded her that she was more than her body. She learned early that while the tribe respected tradition, it was her choices, her thoughts, and her courage that truly defined her. As Amina grew older, the topic of marriage naturally entered her life. In her village, marriages were often arranged by families, and love was expected to grow after the wedding. Her family, caring yet bound by tradition, began searching for a suitable match. When the elders announced that Amina was to marry a young man from a neighboring village, she felt a mix of emotions. Part of her was relieved. This was a natural progression in her life. Another part of her was anxious. She had dreams of independence, and the thought of giving up control of her life weighed heavily on her. The young man, Karim, was polite and well-mannered. He had been raised in a similar environment and shared many of the values of Amina's family. Yet, he was also traditional, and his ideas about marriage were strict. He expected the bride to follow the guidance of her elders and honor the decisions made by their families. Amina understood this well, but she hoped that love might grow between them in time. She wanted to believe that a partnership could exist, one where respect and understanding mattered as much as tradition. In the days leading up to the wedding, Amina's routine changed. There were endless preparations, clothes to be sewn, rituals to be observed, and visits to elders who offered advice or warnings. Some of the advice was kind and thoughtful. Some carried an unspoken expectation that she must fully submit to the rules of the tribe. Amina listened politely, but inside, she questioned everything. She wondered if her voice would ever matter, or if her life would be determined entirely by others. Even amid this pressure, Amina tried to find joy. She spent her mornings by the river, drawing her dreams in her notebook. She explored the forest paths, sometimes crawling, or using her cane to reach places others could easily walk to. These small adventures reminded her that she was capable and alive, and they gave her a sense of freedom that the village rarely allowed. Her family noticed her determination and often praised her quietly. Her father would nod approvingly when she figured out a way to carry water from the well, while her mother would smile when Amina created new ways to help in the household despite her limitations. These moments reinforced her belief that she could survive and thrive, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Yet, not everyone in the village viewed Amina with the same respect. Some elders whispered about her disability, questioning whether she could fulfill her duties as a wife. Rumors sometimes reached her, and though they hurt, Amina refused to let them dominate her thoughts. She reminded herself that her worth was not determined by gossip, but by her own strength, her kindness, and her ability to persevere. The wedding day approached with both excitement and tension. The village buzzed with preparations. Homes were decorated, meals were cooked in large pots over open fires, and women practiced songs and dances that had been performed for generations. Amina helped where she could, her body slow but her mind sharp. She observed everything carefully, noting who was kind and who seemed impatient with her presence. Despite the chaos, she found moments of quiet reflection. Early one morning, she sat by the river, the water flowing gently over smooth stones. She held her notebook and wrote her thoughts. I am more than my body. I am more than the rules of the village. I am me, and I will find my way. These words, simple but powerful, became a promise she made to herself, a silent vow to hold on to her dignity and agency, no matter what came next. Her family tried to reassure her. Her mother said, "You are strong, my child. You will honor our ways, but you will also find your place in the world." Her father added, "Remember, Amina, courage is not the absence of fear but the choice to move forward despite it." These words stayed with her, giving her courage even as she faced uncertainty. Amina also began to notice small signs of tension among the tribe members. Some elders spoke in hushed tones when she entered the room. Others exchanged glances that made her uneasy. She couldn't fully understand their intentions, but she felt the weight of expectation pressing down on her. She realized that while she had survived the challenges of her body, navigating the customs and politics of the village might prove to be an even greater challenge. As the day of the wedding drew closer, Amina's emotions became a mixture of anticipation, fear, and determination. She wanted to honor her family and their traditions, but she also wanted to retain her sense of self. She began quietly planning how to maintain her independence within the constraints of her life. Even in the smallest ways, she sought control, deciding when to speak, when to rest, and how to participate in rituals without losing her voice. Amina's story in these days before the wedding is one of resilience, hope, and careful observation. She is aware that her life is about to change, that her world will become even more complex, and that her choices will be tested. But even in uncertainty, she holds tightly to her dreams and her inner strength, preparing herself for whatever comes next. By the end of this part, Amina stands at the edge of a new chapter, her heart filled with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The river flows steadily nearby, a symbol of life's unstoppable current. And she knows that, like the river, she must keep moving forward, no matter the obstacles. Her spirit, stronger than her body, is ready to face the challenges ahead, even if she cannot yet see what they will be. As the wedding day drew closer, Amina felt a mixture of excitement and unease. The preparations around her grew more intense. Women in the village were sewing bright-colored fabrics, creating intricate patterns for the bridal outfit, while men built structures for the celebrations and gathered food for the feast. The air was filled with music, laughter, and the aroma of spices from cooking fires. Yet, amid all the activity, Amina sensed that not everyone shared in the joy. At first, she tried to dismiss the strange feelings. Some elders whispered in corners when she passed by, their voices hushed but urgent. She noticed men and women exchanging secretive glances, as if they were hiding something from her. Friends tried to reassure her, saying that such behaviors were normal during wedding preparations, but Amina could not shake a growing sense of unease. Deep down, she sensed that the village's expectations were heavier than she had imagined. Amina began to pay closer attention. During one afternoon, she overheard a conversation between two older women who were speaking in low tones. "She is not strong enough for the traditions," one said. "What if she cannot fulfill the responsibilities expected of her?" Amina's heart sank. She realized that her disability, which had never stopped her from living fully, was now being used as a reason to question her worth and even her right to marry. The words stayed with her as she moved through the village, completing her daily routines. She washed the clothes, helped with small chores, and spent moments by the river to calm her mind. The river had always been her refuge, a place where she could think and dream freely. But even there, she could not ignore the gnawing feeling that something was wrong. She knew that, in her village, gossip and judgment could lead to actions far more serious than words. Her family noticed her growing anxiety. Her mother tried to comfort her, holding her hand and speaking softly. "Do not let their doubts control you, my child. You are stronger than they think." Her father, too, offered reassurance, though he appeared troubled. He whispered, "Amina, some people may not understand courage when they see it, but remember, our love and support will always be with you." Despite their words, Amina felt a sense of isolation. She was loved, yes, but the weight of the tribe's judgment pressed down heavily. As the days passed, Amina started noticing other small signs of tension. Invitations to certain gatherings were made without her knowledge. Elders would question her directly about her ability to follow rituals, and she sensed that whispers and rumors about her were spreading beyond what she had heard. She understood that her life, once relatively simple despite her disability, was now intertwined with the complex and sometimes harsh expectations of the village. Despite the tension, Amina tried to maintain her daily routine and find moments of joy. She spent hours drawing in her notebook, sketching the landscapes she loved, and writing down her dreams for a life that could be her own. These small acts became a source of strength. Each word, each sketch, reminded her that she was still capable of choice, even if others sought to control her. The young man chosen for her marriage, Karim, began visiting more often. His presence was polite, formal, and distant. He was kind in small ways, but he carried with him the strict expectations of tradition. He spoke about the duties of a wife, about obedience to elders, and about the responsibilities that Amina would have once married. She listened carefully, trying to show respect while silently resisting the feeling that her life was being dictated by someone else. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Amina found herself alone near the river, her thoughts heavy. She whispered to herself, "I will not let them take my spirit. I will survive. I will find a way." The river, reflecting the golden light of the setting sun, seemed to mirror her inner resolve. Even as fear crept into her heart, she felt a small flame of determination that refused to be extinguished. But the tension in the village did not dissipate. Amina soon realized that the whispers were no longer harmless words, they were part of a plan. Some elders, convinced that she could not fully comply with their customs, began discussing ways to ensure she would fit into the tribe's expectations. Their solution, she could not yet imagine, would be cruel and dangerous. Though she did not fully understand it yet, a feeling of impending danger began to settle over her like a heavy cloud. Her family, unaware of the full scope of the tribe's plans, continued with preparations. The house was decorated with colorful fabrics and flowers, and the aroma of cooking filled the air. Neighbors and relatives arrived, sharing laughter and stories. The village seemed alive with celebration. Yet beneath the surface, Amina could sense the hidden currents of fear, judgment, and control. One afternoon, while helping her mother with cooking, Amina noticed a group of elders speaking quietly near the riverbank. She could not hear all of their words, but she caught phrases like, "must comply," and "no choice." Her heart raced, and she realized that her worst fears were not unfounded. The village, which she had always believed was her home, could also be a place of danger. Amina tried to talk to her close friends, sharing her fears in whispers. They listened, shocked and worried, but offered little in the way of solutions. There was no one powerful enough to challenge the elders, no outside help to intervene. The realization was chilling. If the tribe decided something, it would happen, and Amina might have no way to stop it. Despite the growing danger, she refused to give in to despair. She spent her nights writing in her notebook, recording her thoughts, her fears, and her hopes. She wrote about freedom, about courage, and about the life she wished to live. She filled pages with sketches of a world where she could walk without fear, where she could make her own choices. These pages became her secret refuge, a place where she could reclaim some control over her life. As the day of the wedding approached, the tension reached a peak. Preparations became more elaborate, the villagers more insistent, and the rituals more demanding. Amina was expected to participate fully, to show complete obedience to customs she did not fully accept. Each ritual felt heavier than the last, each expectation more suffocating. She felt trapped, yet she knew she had to remain calm, at least outwardly. Any sign of defiance could provoke further punishment. One evening, an elder approached her under the pretense of giving guidance. "You must understand your role," he said, his tone firm but polite. "Your life is now bound to the tribe, and you must obey. There is no other path." Amina listened, nodding carefully. But inside, her mind raced. She understood that her body might be partially paralyzed, but her spirit could never be confined. She vowed silently that she would resist, even if she could not yet see a way to survive what might come. The night before the wedding, Amina could not sleep. She lay awake, listening to the distant sounds of the river and the rustling of the trees. Her heart pounded with fear and anticipation. She thought of her family, her friends, and the small moments of joy she had found in the past. She thought of the notebook filled with dreams and sketches, of the river where she had always found peace. She realized that she needed courage more than ever. When the morning arrived, the village seemed alive with energy. The sun shone brightly, as if unaware of the danger that lingered beneath the surface. Amina dressed carefully, assisted by her mother and friends, and prepared for the rituals that marked the beginning of her new life. She smiled when she could, but inside, she remained alert. She knew that the whispers, the secret meetings, and the suspicious glances were not random. They were signs of a plan that could change her life forever. As the first rituals began, Amina's unease grew. The elders guided her through each step with meticulous attention. Their eyes, sometimes soft, sometimes hard, she followed their instructions, careful not to provoke anger, while keeping her mind focused on survival. She understood that every gesture, every word, and every movement mattered. One misstep could have serious consequences. It was during one such ritual, near the edge of the river, that the full danger became clear. The elders insisted on a symbolic gesture, one that required Amina to step closer to the water. She felt a chill run down her spine. Something did not feel right. Her instincts, sharpened by years of navigating challenges, screamed that she was in danger. She looked at the faces around her, trying to read intentions, but the elders' expressions were carefully neutral, giving nothing away. In a moment that would change her life forever, Amina realized that the river, once a place of peace and reflection, could now become a source of peril. She sensed the betrayal before it fully unfolded, but her body, constrained by paralysis, could not move quickly enough to escape. The weight of tradition, combined with the hidden cruelty of those who should have guided and protected her, became starkly real. Amina's heart raced as she understood that her life was at stake. She clung to the last traces of courage, determined not to give in to panic. Even in the face of betrayal, she resolved that she would fight for her life, for her freedom, and for the dreams she had always carried in her heart. Amina's heart pounded violently as she felt herself slipping into the river. The water was cold and fast-moving, rushing around her in a way that made it impossible for her to stand. Panic threatened to take over, but she forced herself to stay conscious, to keep thinking even as her body struggled. The current pulled at her weak legs, and for a moment, she felt as if she might vanish beneath the water forever. Instinct took over. Though her legs could not move as they once had, Amina used her arms and upper body to push against the river. She kicked as best as she could, splashing and thrashing, trying to grab hold of anything that might keep her afloat. Her breaths came in short, frantic gasps, and her mind raced with fear and determination. She could not let herself go. She would survive. She had to. The river, once a symbol of peace and beauty in her life, now seemed like an enemy. The water was strong, relentless, and unyielding. Amina's hands clawed at floating branches and rocks, seeking a grip, a chance to stop being swept away. Every second felt like an hour. Every wave a mountain she had to climb. Her body ached. Her arms grew tired, but she refused to surrender. Amid the chaos, Amina noticed a small movement near the riverbank. A man, a fisherman who had come to check his nets early in the morning, was watching her struggle. His eyes widened as he realized the danger she was in. Without hesitation, he waded into the river, calling out to her to stay calm. His presence gave her a flicker of hope. For the first time since being thrown in, she felt that survival might be possible. The fisherman reached her, extending a sturdy branch to help pull her toward safety. Amina grabbed it with all her strength, her hands slippery from the water, and allowed herself to be guided slowly to the riverbank. The cold air hit her face as she finally emerged from the water, shivering violently, her body trembling from fear and exhaustion. But she was alive. Against all odds, she had survived. Once on the riverbank, the fisherman wrapped a blanket around her shoulders and helped her to sit. Amina was too weak to speak at first. Tears mixed with raindrops and river water on her face. She felt a strange combination of relief, fear, and disbelief. The world seemed both terrifying and beautiful in that moment, terrifying because of what had happened, beautiful because she was still breathing, still alive, still holding on to her dreams. The fisherman stayed with her, offering quiet comfort. He called for help, and soon, a few villagers from a nearby town arrived. They helped Amina to her feet and guided her to a safe place where she could rest, dry off, and recover from the shock. Her body ached from the struggle, and her mind was clouded with fear and confusion. But as the minutes passed, a new determination began to grow inside her. She had survived, and survival meant she could still reclaim her life. In the following days, Amina began to process the trauma she had endured. Her body was sore and weak, but her mind was awake, analyzing, remembering, and learning from what had happened. She realized that the village, the very people she had trusted, had betrayed her. Yet, instead of succumbing to despair, she decided to use the experience to grow stronger. She would not allow herself to be defined by fear or by the cruelty of others. Amina's recovery was slow. The local villagers, recognizing the severity of what had happened, helped her with food, clothing, and shelter. She met doctors and caregivers who treated her injuries, provided therapy, and explained how to strengthen her body again. Every small step, every regained movement, was a victory. She learned to move with care, to trust her body, and to celebrate even the smallest achievements. During this time, Amina's mind was filled with thoughts of the life she had lost in her village. She mourned the betrayal of her family and tribe, the loss of trust, and the danger she had faced. Yet she also realized that her survival was a turning point. She could no longer be confined by the expectations of others. She had seen both cruelty and kindness in the world, and now she could choose which paths to follow. Slowly, she began to rebuild her independence. She practiced walking with her cane, gradually relying on her body more each day. She learned to navigate spaces that once seemed impossible for her, gaining confidence and strength. She also returned to her notebook, drawing and writing as a way to process her emotions. Her sketches became more vivid, her writing more determined. Each page reminded her that her story was hers to tell, and that no one could take that away from her. As she healed physically, Amina also focused on her mental and emotional recovery. She spoke with counselors who helped her understand that the trauma she had experienced was not her fault. She learned to express her feelings of fear, anger, and sadness, and to transform them into motivation. She realized that the river, which had once threatened her life, had also given her a second chance. A chance to reclaim herself and build a future on her own terms. Amina's survival story soon inspired others. People who heard about the incident were amazed by her courage. They were moved by the way she had faced danger without giving up, and by how she had used the experience to strengthen herself rather than break. Slowly, she began to understand that her voice mattered. Her story, once confined to whispers and private thoughts, could become a beacon for others who faced similar challenges. The weeks turned into months, and Amina continued her journey of recovery. She learned to trust herself, to make decisions independently, and to set boundaries with those who might try to control her. Her mind, sharp and resilient, became her greatest asset. She reflected on the lessons she had learned. That courage is not the absence of fear, that survival is a choice, and that even in moments of darkness, hope can shine through. Through this process, Amina also discovered new sources of strength. She met people who believed in her, who offered friendship, guidance, and support. These connections reminded her that while some people could betray and harm, others could care and protect. She learned to seek out these relationships and to cherish the bonds that lifted her rather than confined her. Even as she grew stronger, Amina never forgot the river the moment it had threatened her life and the moment it had helped her survive. It became a symbol of both danger and hope, a reminder that life could be unpredictable, but also full of opportunities for resilience. She returned to the riverbank sometimes, not out of fear, but out of reverence. She would sit by the water, letting the gentle flow soothe her spirit, and feel gratitude for the life she had been given. As Part 3 draws to a close, Amina is no longer the same person who had been bound by her village's expectations. She is stronger, wiser, and more aware of her own power. She has faced betrayal, danger, and physical limitations, yet she has emerged with courage and determination. Her story is no longer just about survival, it is about reclaiming life, discovering inner strength, and preparing to face the future on her own terms. Amina's journey is far from over. She knows that challenges remain, that healing will take time, and that she will continue to encounter obstacles. But she also knows that she has the resilience to face them. The river, once a place of fear, now represents hope, freedom, and the unbreakable spirit that lies within her. With each passing day, she grows stronger, ready to reclaim her life fully, and to ensure that her story will be heard. After the terrifying ordeal and her struggle for survival, Amina slowly began to understand that life could be rebuilt, even after betrayal and danger. Each day, she learned something new about herself, her strength, her resilience, and the ability to face challenges with courage. Her body was healing, and so was her spirit. But the journey was not easy. Every step forward required patience, determination, and the willingness to confront memories that haunted her. The local community that had rescued her became an unexpected support system. Strangers offered help without judgment, guiding her through recovery exercises, providing meals, and ensuring she had the care she needed. For Amina, this kindness was both surprising and humbling. She realized that not everyone in the world sought to harm others. Some people, guided by empathy and compassion, could restore faith in humanity. Slowly, she began to trust again, not blindly, but carefully, learning to discern who truly wished her well. Physical therapy became a central part of her daily routine. At first, it was exhausting. Her muscles, weakened by months of limited mobility, protested each movement. Simple actions, standing for long periods, walking short distances, or climbing a few steps, were monumental challenges. Yet, with each small success, she felt a surge of pride. Each regained movement was a reminder that she was capable, that her body, though once vulnerable, could grow stronger with determination and effort. Alongside her physical recovery, Amina's emotional healing progressed. She spent hours reflecting on the betrayal she had endured, the family, the tribe, the people she had trusted. Anger, sadness, and fear were all present. But she learned to confront these emotions rather than suppress them. She wrote in her notebook daily, documenting every thought, every memory, and every moment of triumph. Writing became a form of therapy, helping her make sense of the past while planning for a future that she could shape herself. Amina also began to think about her identity in a new light. She was no longer just a girl defined by her tribe or her disability. She was a survivor. A young woman who had faced unimaginable danger and emerged alive. This realization was both empowering and liberating. She started envisioning a life where she could pursue education, skills, and opportunities that had previously been denied to her. Her mind, sharp and determined, became her greatest asset in imagining the future. One day, Amina decided to speak about her experience to a small group of women who had also faced difficulties in their communities. She wanted to share her story not out of anger, but to empower them, to let them know that survival and recovery were possible, and that their voices mattered. She spoke carefully, her words measured but heartfelt, describing her struggle in the river, her escape, and the slow process of rebuilding her life. The women listened intently, some with tears in their eyes, others with smiles of admiration. The act of sharing her story gave Amina a new sense of purpose. She realized that her survival was not only for herself, but could also serve as an inspiration to others. She began to understand that trauma, though painful, could be transformed into a source of strength, courage, and change. Her story, once private and personal, now had the power to resonate with people far beyond the village that had betrayed her. As weeks turned into months, Amina focused on her independence. She learned to navigate transportation, manage her daily tasks, and advocate for herself in medical and legal matters. She discovered that being disabled did not mean being helpless. It meant learning new ways to engage with the world and finding tools and strategies to overcome obstacles. Every challenge she conquered reinforced her belief in her own strength. Amina also began forming bonds with people who shared her vision of empowerment. Mentors, friends, and advocates guided her through complex systems, teaching her about rights, education, and self-advocacy. These relationships were crucial. They reminded her that she was not alone, that support existed outside of the traditional structures that had once limited her, and that she could create a network of encouragement, safety, and growth. Her emotional resilience grew alongside her physical and social recovery. Though she never forgot the betrayal, she learned to let go of anger in a constructive way. She understood that carrying resentment would only weigh her down. Instead, she focused on what she could control: her actions, her choices, and her voice. She found joy in small victories, writing a letter to a friend, speaking confidently in a group, or helping someone else navigate a challenge. Each act became a building block in her new life. Amina's story gradually reached a wider audience. Local media, human rights advocates, and women's organizations learned about her courage and determination. They were inspired by how she had faced danger, survived a near-death experience, and transformed her trauma into action. Invitations came for her to speak, to mentor young women, and to share her experiences at workshops. Each opportunity strengthened her confidence, proving that her voice mattered and that she could influence change. Education became another focus for Amina. Though she had missed school during the months of struggle, she enrolled in programs that could help her learn new skills and pursue her dreams. She discovered a passion for advocacy, writing, and storytelling. She realized that knowledge was not only a way to empower herself but also a tool to help others who might be trapped in harmful situations. Learning became a form of liberation, a way to claim her future and define her life on her own terms. Amina also began advocating for safety and awareness in her former village. Though it was risky, she sought to ensure that other girls and women would not face the same danger she had endured. She worked with local leaders and organizations to promote education, safety, and empowerment, sharing strategies that could protect vulnerable individuals. Her mission was clear: to turn her painful experience into a force for good, helping others avoid the suffering she had faced. Despite her progress, Amina remained humble. She knew that life could present new challenges at any time, but she faced each day with courage, determination, and a belief in her own power. Her journey taught her that setbacks could be overcome, that resilience was built through action, and that hope could flourish even in the darkest circumstances. As she continued her journey, Amina returned to the river from time to time. She would sit by the water, feeling the gentle flow against her hands, reflecting on how it had once been a source of terror and now represented life, survival, and renewal. The river had tested her, but it had also shown her the strength she carried within herself. Each visit was a reminder of how far she had come and of the life she now had the power to shape. Her relationship with her family remained complicated. While some relatives continued to hold traditional beliefs, Amina approached these interactions with caution and assertiveness. She no longer allowed fear to dictate her actions. Instead, she communicated clearly, maintained boundaries, and upheld her right to make decisions for herself. Over time, a few family members began to respect her independence, recognizing that courage and determination could inspire even those who once doubted her. By the end of this part of her life, Amina had transformed. She was no longer a girl defined by her disability or by the betrayal of her tribe. She had become a symbol of resilience, courage, and empowerment. Her body had healed as much as possible, her mind had grown stronger, and her voice had become powerful. She understood that while the past could not be erased, it could be used to fuel a better future, not only for herself, but for others who needed hope and guidance. Amina's story became a testament to the human spirit's capacity to endure, survive, and flourish. She had faced fear, danger, and betrayal. Yet she had chosen life, action, and hope. Through education, advocacy, and personal growth, she had reclaimed her life. She had learned that true freedom comes not from avoiding challenges but from confronting them, learning from them, and using them to create positive change. As she looked toward the future, Amina knew that her journey was far from over. Challenges would continue to arise, but she faced them with confidence and resilience. She had discovered that the strength within her, her courage, her determination, and her voice was more powerful than any obstacle. She could navigate the world on her own terms, inspire others, and continue to grow in ways that her village could never have imagined. Her story, once hidden and fearful, had now become a beacon. Amina had transformed from a victim of circumstance into a survivor, a leader, and an inspiration. She had proven that even in the face of extreme adversity, hope and courage could prevail. And as she sat by the river that had once threatened her life, she felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that she had reclaimed her future, her voice, and her power.